Okay, I'm going to demo the new updates to the Song of Ice and Fire-Sim website, ASOIAF-SIM.com. These are the new updates, just got a bunch of things in, some fixes and some other things going here. So I'm going to quickly demo that. Again, so we have the trays that are built in already with all the appropriate measurements. So you have the 1 inch, you have 6 inch, you have the 12 inch, you have short range, long range, you have movement, range here. You can also zoom in using the scroll wheel. You can get perfect rotation by using the arrows on the side. You'll get a perfect rotation that way without it moving, pivoting on the point. You can move left and right. You can move up and down perfectly using that way, and you can also just pick it up and freeform move it. As you pick it up too, you'll notice there's a little built-in tape measure here so that you can get perfect distance for movement. On top of that, there is movement history for devices. So in this case, or for units rather. So we can go ahead and rotate through history. So in this case, if you press the R key to rewind or F to fast forward, there's also these as well. You can hit these to rewind and fast forward as well. Outside of that, there's a right-click context menu for most things in the game, so I can take away health that way. I can activate tokens directly from here. I can also activate it on the cards itself, so it'll give you plenty of options. Anytime you hover over a card, there's an option to zoom in. So if you click the little eye icon, you'll get a full zoom in of the card in question. There's also several battle maps you can choose from. Pick your poison, whichever you like the best. This is usually one of my favorites. You can also set the default 10-inch and 18-inch deployment zones. That's built in here, so if you need to, you can have that. There's also a built-in grid system so that you can toggle on grid system so you can get exact measurements for different places and different measurements. Outside of that, there's the throne token, so you can change the game order. And then there's also a next turn token, and when you set the next turn, it'll actually toggle off prior orders on units. In addition to that, we can add game objects in here. There's a bunch of them in here. For example, we could do that. We could do one of these. There's also some tactics boards, so we can add in the House of the Undying tactics board if we wanted to. We have terrain with on hover. It'll actually show you what the keywords are for that piece of terrain. And then also if it has an AoE effect too, like this one gives inspiring, on hover it'll do that too. And then on the opposite here is the corpse pile does the opposite of that. You can also rotate using these keys. You can also use Q and E to rotate and hold down shift to speed up the rotation. Or you can again use these as well. You can also lock objects. There's a right click context menu here. You can lock the object in place so you can't move it. That's just to help you prevent you from moving things inadvertently. You can lock that also from here as well using this context menu here. Outside of that, we have objectives. So the new feature that I just added in, aside from we can draw, we can shuffle the deck, and we can reset the deck, we have a search feature now built in so that you can quickly pull out like let's say you need to pull out 10, where's the other ones? 9, I don't know, it doesn't matter. You can draw those out and they'll be pre-pulled out here. But again, you can shuffle or you could draw, pretty straightforward stuff. So we also have NCUs. You can add NCUs into the game. So in this case, I add my NCU, move it into place. There is a right-click context menu for, again, just about everything. I can right-click. This is also new. I can right-click and claim a zone very quickly. I can claim it that way. And then, as I had mentioned before, if we put order tokens on something, we can change the order and it'll reset it at the next round. So your NCUs go back to their cards, and then you can either drag them or you can either right click and just go ahead and take the zone. Also, if for some reason your NCU is over here, you could also move your NCU back to the card. So just some quick reference things there. Outside of that, we can add unit here. Let me go ahead and add a unit. We'll go ahead and, since there's Stark on the other side, or Lannister on the other side, we'll go ahead and put Stark. So we'll put some swords in here. So we have Stark versus Lannister. And then we have our card here. Again, we can zoom in on it. There's a bunch of features built into the tray here, as well as context menu on the unit itself. We can go ahead and add attachments to the units. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and add Rob in here. So let's say Rob Stark was on this unit. I can right click and use his orders if he had any orders, depends. And then on top of that, you can change the position that Rob is in. And you can also toggle those orders directly from the card itself and delete them too if you need to. In this case, we're not going to do that. Outside of attachments, you can also set your color for your army. So in this case, we'll say I'm red. My name's Chris, so I'll go ahead and set it to Chris. And then there's also a help menu. So the help menu just has some basic information in here in addition to all the different key bindings. So zoom is scroll. You can reset an object position, redo an object position. You can delete an object using the delete key. There's a built-in tape measure that I almost forgot. So if you need to manually measure some distances, you can just move your mouse to position, hold down the T key, and then measure it that way. And then your opponent will also see that as you're doing that. Also in the help is, again, right click context menus, zoom. There's a snap system, which I almost forgot here. So let's say I had made like a 6-inch charge. In this case, anytime you select a unit, the enemy units, the enemy trays will have little white bars on them. So you can select a unit and just click on the little white bar and it'll snap it into the appropriate position depending on where you want to go. So in this case, we'll say I'm going to go halfway right there. So halfway, I would snap into perfect positioning so that, or if I was going to come over here, for example, then you would be able to do the halfway position there. So, yeah, okay. Outside of that, there's also a demo, which I'll be updating here shortly. I have some helpful link to some other good resources there, some other cool projects going on. There's also a simulator log. The simulator log is the most recent entries to the so the oldest entries. Work to be done on that in the future, but it should give you enough to know what's going on, where things were moved, what dice were rolled, and that sort of thing. If you need to go back and check who did what, or what actions were taken, just to keep people honest. There's also different languages here, so if you change that and then refresh your screen, then all your cards should be loaded into a different language. So, and that'll be from there on out. So we'll go ahead and change this back to English. Again, we can set our name, which I already showed you. There's a save feature, so let's go ahead and click save. So I saved it to clipboard. It ends up looking like this big old blob here. You could just save it to a text file or something if you needed to. I did improve that here recently, but let's say I had done some things by accident and I didn't mean to, and we deleted a couple things that we didn't want to. In that case, we could also, or if you go away for a while, the session will die out. You can restart the game back up from where you were last time. So in this case, that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and paste this back in. We actually support several things here, aside from the fact that you can reload the game to its previous state. You can also import lists from TTS, or A Song of Ice and Fire Stats. They have a TTS export option. You click on the TTS button, it'll paste it. You can put it in here. It's not perfect yet. There's still work to be done, but it seems to be getting better. It's mostly accurate. There's also another builder website, which is pretty good. I would recommend going to. And then there's also War Council, so you can actually take your War Council, copy and paste, and put it in there. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and reload our game. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm player 1. And it's going to reload our objects back into play, and we're right back to where we were essentially. Outside of that, we can also set game modes. So there's built-in game modes here. We can go ahead and do a random selection, and okay, so we got a Feast of Crows, and these come in pre-locked, so you won't have to worry about them moving at all. Okay, so I think that's it for the interface here for the most part. Again, there's a nice little feature here. It kind of resets everything back to where it was. Outside of that, we have the interface. So again, the big thing here is the ability to search your decks, which we didn't have before. And there's also a dice feature. One thing too about the dice feature is, I need to open this up in the other window real quick here. So if, let's say, your opponent was rolling some dice and you're not in the user interface, you'll be able to see it as they're rolling the dice there, of course. And you'll see their little mouse, which is a little green thing when they're in the UI. But otherwise, let's say you're out here, If they were to start rolling dice, you'll actually see it up here in the top right hand corner. And in addition to that, this dice is always the D3 that's represented in the gold here. So you can use this just as regular dice, in which case just use it as a D6, or if they roll it and you need to do a panic test, you could do it. You could just use it representing this gold bar, and it'll show you the number here. But that'll also get represented up in the top right hand corner if you're not actively in the interface. So in this case, if they had rolled a D3, it would have ended up being a 2. But otherwise, it's just the D6s as shown here. Um, okay, so now to actually show the interface from this perspective, let's go ahead and you can see the other player rolling. And then in this case, I'm going to go ahead and take a panic test. So I'm going to delete, draw 2, roll, take a panic test. Okay, so I got a 3 on the D3, and then I rolled an 8, which in most cases I'd probably be okay. But let's say let's say I had 20 dice, which is probably impossible in this game. But let's say I had 20 dice on the charge. I rolled. I can select all the units based on number. In this case, I can select everything. Let's say I was hitting on a 4. I could select everything 1, 2, and 3, and then just re-roll those for the charge. And then if I still had bad, I could just select those down here and remove them. You can also manually select each one as well, and that works just fine. And I can re-roll those as well. Outside of that, there's a minus. There's also a revert, so you can revert the dice history to its previous state, and you can also go forward too. It only tracks up to the last 20. If you need to go further than that, you can also just look into the log entry, as I had mentioned here. So you can go back and you can see the dice that were rolled. So back into the user interface, that's pretty much it. Again, you just select the ones you want and then click the roll button. In this case, we'll go ahead and remove that. Let's say we need a missions card. We can go ahead and draw them here. There's a play button. There's a discard. There's a putting it back onto the deck. So we'll go ahead and put it back on top. There's also an expand so you can see the full view. You can also insert it into the game if you want. You have to put it into play first and then there. And then you can put it into play if for some reason you need to put it into play. In this case, we'll go ahead and put it back into the interface. You can expand. So if I had a bunch of cards drawn here and they were discarded, that's just to allow you to expand the discard so you can kind of see what's in there. There's a shuffle, of course, and then there's also a search feature. This is the newest feature that we just added in. So like, let's say I needed to like get rid of some for a mission or something like that. I could just like draw them and pull them out. Now your opponent does see that, of course, so it'll say, hey, that they're searching through their tactics deck. So you can't just try to search willy-nilly and think you're going to get away with it. But that'll also be in the log as well. So outside of that, it's pretty straightforward. As far as mission cards are concerned. Same thing with tactics decks. So we can go ahead and select our tactics decks here. I'll go ahead and do these two, I guess. I'll pretend to be Baratheon for now. It already comes pre-shuffled. All the decks come pre-shuffled, but you can go and shuffle them again. You can draw, and then you can also search through your deck if you need to. I know some abilities allow you to search through your deck for a card. So in this case, let's say I'm going to take like I don't know, Stag's Wit. I could draw it or put it into the discard for some reason. And then on top of that, again, you have all the same features. You have the play button, you have the discard, you have the, you can either put it onto the top or the bottom of the deck. I know there's some that'll allow you, some tactics and NCUs that allow you to do that sort of thing. You can reveal the card too. So if you click the reveal button, then your opponent will see it while it's in your hand. You can also expand it to look at it at a full view. You can also insert it into the simulator. In this case, we'll go ahead and insert it in. Again, in the case of like Night's Watch, they can attach things to units. You can go ahead and put the card in here. And then you can kind of just put it next to the card or something like that. And then again, there's another expand option here. And yeah, I think that's about, oh, you know what, one more thing, I know what, so let's go ahead and play. Also, too, you don't always want to be in the interface necessarily. So if you're in the interface, I need to get some cards to my hands. So if you're in the interface and you're like, crap, I don't know what I have in my hands, well, that pops up here in the simulator. It's just down at the bottom. If you're not 100% sure what you have, you can just quickly hover down at the bottom, it'll kind of tell you. And if you want to go ahead and play it at any given moment, you can just go ahead and select it, and it'll take you right into the interface with that card selected, and then you can just go straight into playing it. And I think that's pretty much it. Again, the new feature here being the searching the deck feature. Um, so that's probably everything to it. I hope you guys enjoy the new features, and this helps you guys kind of know how to play the game. Thanks. Bye.